Right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and before we get into today, I want to do something since we just passed 3k subs. I want to just give a shout out and pay homage to the channel OGs. So here you are, here's the first 1,000 subscribers to the channel. Big shout out to all of you guys. And of course, there are people that have permanently cemented their triple OG status, and here they are. So a massive thank you to all of you guys, a massive welcome and welcome back to everybody else. Today, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, right? We're going to be talking about some Bitcoin stuff that is circulating. I'm going to be putting some FUD to bed for you. I also want to talk a little bit about the real estate market. Not very much, but I've got to point at a couple of things and say Camel's getting ready to short the housing market. I thought you might find that interesting. Then we got some more Bitcoin stuff and some charts as always. So just before we get into this, I need to point something out, okay? A lot of people still have a problem with this activate Windows thing, right? Okay, this is a company slogan at this point, and to commemorate all the people that for some reason just can't get past this, I have added some merch to the merch store, so make sure you go and check this out, okay? Moving on to more serious issues, this is doing the rounds at the moment, okay, that JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon has come out and said that he's always deeply opposed to crypto, and if he was the government, he would close it down, and a lot of people are concerned about this. But the truth is, they're concerned about this because they haven't been here very long. Unlike me, who's been here a while. Let me just play you this clip, it speaks for itself.
September 12th, Jamie Dimon says Bitcoin is a fraud. He says he'll fire any one of his traders buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin drops 24%. When Jamie Dimon speaks, people listen. People listen. So that weekend, we found out that the largest buyer of a Bitcoin fund that's in Europe that buys physical Bitcoin, right? The largest buyer was Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. And
boom! That's how you play the game, okay? So, history doesn't repeat, but it does often rhyme. Whilst he's out here fudding, I guarantee you he's one of the largest net buyers. In fact, let me jump forward to a slide right here, okay? Take a look at this. So, this rally likely continues to have legs because whales with 10k Bitcoin or more are in hard accumulation, as you can see by the blue at the hard right edge of this chart, okay? Top line here, greater than 10k Bitcoin wallets. They are in heavy accumulation mode, and that is above $38,000. So again, it goes back to how the game is played. Do not allow stuff like this to FUD you. Do not allow stuff like this to shake you out, because whilst he says all of this, he is of course behind the scenes buying huge quantities of Bitcoin. So I said I was going to cover the housing market. Look, a year ago, you won't have seen this video because it's only got 71 views, but I put out this video saying, are house prices about to crash? In that video, of course, feel free to go and watch these if you're interested. But in that video, I said that we were probably going to get a property market crash, but not for some time. And it was not a concern of mine at the time. Then around 6-8 months later, I put out the second video as an update. And I kind of went over the conclusion of this video and then said, how have things changed since then? The way things had changed is they had gotten worse as I expected them to, but we still weren't quite staring down the barrel of a property market crash yet. However, I did conclude that we were getting dangerously close now. Since that video, I now think that for sure the top is in for the property market. Jay has shared this with me. Look, pending home sales neared record lows in October as mortgage payments approached 8%. Pending home sales just hit their lowest point in history outside of the first months of the this thing crisis when the economy nearly ground to a halt. And so, just before we get into this chart, actually, let me pull up the SPY chart. So, long-time viewers of the channel know that this has been the base case, the expectation, not a prediction. The yellow squiggle is arbitrary. It's not supposed to predict price or time. As I covered in those prior videos, the fundamentals underneath the hood for the housing market looked like it was getting worse and worse and worse, and that we would be about to see a property market crash early next year. And of course, if we are going to have a deflationary bust, if we are going to have a big crash, then assuming I end up being correct about this call, why would property survive when everything else doesn't, right? So that led me to go and take a look at the Vanguard real estate ETF. And what I found, this yellow fractal here has just been copy and pasted from the subprime housing mortgage collapse back here in 2008. And as you can see, we're already like halfway through it. Now, that does not mean that we're not about to break out and have a recovery. That certainly is one possibility, particularly if QE bombs are going to show up in the not too distant future. But as it stands right here, okay, undeniably not far from starting to accelerate to the downside, assuming this fractal continues to play. I'm going to come out of the weekly chart. I'm going to grab this fractal, just move it out of the way so we can see what's going on. Here's my thoughts, right? My thoughts are, this is a pretty steep counter-trend bounce within the context of a downtrend. My thoughts are also that we're either going to roll over very soon and break down like this, or we might make it as high as the upper resistance line before we then get that breakdown and a rollover. Either way, once we lose this upward sloping red support line and find our rejection at either this resistance or this one, I want to get short here. I want to get short here because, like I've just shown you with that fractal, the base case is that we probably have to roll over and do it pretty quickly. So this may well occur over the next couple of days, or it may well take as long as the next few weeks before the short can trigger, but I'm keeping a close eye on this. I want you to consider this a trade call out ahead of time. If we break down, I will be looking to get short something either like this or like this, and we will see what the market can give. We will also be looking to see if something like this can play out, if this is on the cards. So I'm going to leave this here, consider this a call out, but if we really are going to see the stock market and risk assets run the all-time highs, then it seems reasonable to me that we would get this pop-up that then rolls over as we enter that deflationary bust period early next year. So the housing market is certainly topped, right? The only way you could say that this is a pullback within the context of an uptrend is that we would need to see these resistances broke and we would need to see resumption of the macro uptrend. We have not yet seen that. So it could certainly go either way. Obviously, we're going to wait for trade signals. But as far as I can tell, right, this is a nice short and we could well see a repeat of the 2008 style crash. It seems like we've already done half of it, right, as well. So keep that in mind. Heading back to Bitcoin, Bitcoin just keeps getting stronger, doesn't it? The Lightning Network capacity reached a new all-time high yesterday at $229 million. The charts continue to look super, super bullish, okay? Take a good look at this right-hand chart from back here in 2016. We got this moving average cross, a breakout, a retest, and then a huge parabolic advance. Where are we today? Well, we've just had the cross. We are already above, looking for potentially for that retest before a huge parabolic advance. I showed you earlier, we already had this whale map showing that whales are all in accumulation. In fact, all cohorts right now are in accumulation, as you can see by the color of the blue. Also have Bitcoin dominance, okay? Bitcoin dominance breaking out. Now, whenever this happens, historically, Bitcoin does very, very well. Bitcoin breaks out. Bitcoin continues to do Bitcoin things. I've been showing this chart over and over and over again on this channel. I even posted it to Twitter all the way back in September or August. And the whole time up, people have been saying crazy things to me. Like, there's no way we're going to roll over. But as I always say, right, assume this isn't Bitcoin dominance. Assume that you're not looking at this through the greedy eyes of an altcoin person chasing 1000x gains. Let's just assume this is a stock, right, or a share. What have we got? Huge bottom formation, range break, okay, breakout, retest, resumption to the upside. Now, if this was a stock, once we got that breakout, retest, right, looking for that resumption to the upside, is it then reasonable to say, well, I know what comes next, this, okay? Of course not. Of course not. Once we get a massive range form, once we get breakout, retest, resumption confirmed by a secondary breakout and higher highs and higher lows like we've got now, it's only reasonable to expect this thing to continue up through 60 or 70% at least. And I know altcoiners don't like to hear that because that suggests Bitcoin's going to outperform your altcoin. But it's good news for everyone because whilst Bitcoin is going to continue to outperform altcoins in the short to medium term, the higher this goes, the more liquidity you have ready to be deployed into your alt season. The higher this goes, the higher your alt bags will go. But just remember, this is how it works, okay? We first have to pump Bitcoin, then the money can exit Bitcoin into alt seasons and more speculative plays as FOMO and invincibility kicks in. Of course, that invincibility is only a perception of invincibility and is actually in real life significant vulnerability. Last but not least, before we get into the charts, just for a piece of context, whilst we're in the middle of a pullback for the stock market, the S&P 500 was up more than 8% in November to previous greater than 8% monthly gains. So we're higher a year later, 27 out of 30 times, and up nearly 16% on average. So again, another piece of data that tells us to keep an open mind about better than expected outcomes for the stock market walking forward. Hopping into the charts, is this breakout retest resumption for the DXY, or is this that fake breakout that I was talking about? Is this that rollover? And are we going to continue to see this come off? I said the thing we would need to see is the euro dollar because it makes up 57% of the DXY, catch a bounce at support. So not quite a touch yet, but coming in for that touch, then I think we can find a daily cycle low for the euro dollar, and I think we can return to the upside off of this support line. If we can do that, then of course the Dixie will continue its downward trajectory into that 3-year cycle low, and we will not have to entertain marking this as a slightly premature 3-year cycle low. Bitcoin is still doing Bitcoin things, isn't it? Look at this. So again, we continue to get later and later and later in this daily cycle. We are now on day 52 of an expected day 60 cycle low. So it tells us that this is possibly the top, okay? But the thing I've learned, and the thing you should learn, is when you have a trend this strong, okay? People kept wanting to short this from here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here, okay? when you have a trend this strong, do not jump in front of trains, okay? Do not expect that just because this looks like it should be the top, that we can't do something like this and overextend the cycle. That is certainly in the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's likely, I'm not saying it will happen, but I am saying I don't want to be short here. That is what I know for sure. So we'll see how low down this pullback comes. I actually think this is going to be more of a shallow one, but I am open to seeing a 30 or 40% correction. Time will tell. Crypto-related equities perhaps have seen their top, perhaps looking now to find that daily cycle low around the 15th of December when Bitcoin is due. And then, like I said, you know the plan, right? We'll move stops up and we'll continue to push these longs until it becomes unreasonable to do so. The same is true of MicroStrategy, Riot, and of course Marathon. Looking for these pullbacks now into the cycle low, and then we'll see if we can add and move stops up. Is that oil short? Okay, so we lost $70 as of yesterday. Happy days, really. Short and strong, you know the deal, right? We'll cover the short if we break out of this downward sloping red resistance line, but all the while we're below that, then we'll keep pushing the short. Gold, okay? Gold, still not interesting to me. You know the deal, all-time high break, and we get long. Silver, currently not interesting to me either. Cut this trade after it failed the breakout. Again, I'll re-enter if we can get a true push or something like this, but for now, I'm expecting to see this thing continue to the downside for a little while longer since the breakout has clearly failed. And the stock market, is this the time to see a pullback? Are we finally targeting now this daily cycle low due around the 20th or 22nd of December? Are we finally going to see some of these gaps closed off before resumption of the major uptrend? I know a lot of people are going to be calling for these gaps down here to be filled. I really don't see that personally. Of course, it's a market, anything can happen, but I would think something much more like this is more reasonable to expect, and then a nice strong push off into the end of the year. Same is true of the Nasdaq, right? This is a pretty orderly decline so far, so something like this and a resumption to the upside seems perfectly reasonable. And the Dow Jones showing relative strength as well, isn't it? Look, no sign of a large pullback just yet. I would think this is coming, right? Something like this. But now, as always, take it one day at a time. Russell 2K as well, still doing pretty well, isn't it? Still holding up, so we should continue to see this thing push. And the VIX, not suggesting we've got any kind of volatility event brewing. It just, to me, says that they're going to continue to sell this thing short until we get down towards 10, and then from there we can entertain that big deflationary bust that I was talking about earlier on in today's episode. So that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you found value here. I hope you're doing well in life. And until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.